Welcome to Escuela del Sur. We are here. We are very, very excited with this second interview on Escuela del Sur with an incredible performance, acrobatic tumbling coach. I meet here in Dubai, James Both. Welcome, James.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
How are you doing?
I'm very good. Very, very good. Had a good day. So yeah, I can't complain.
Where you are now?
I'm back in England. So I'm from England. I've done a lot of traveling recently, but now I'm back in England, hopefully for good.
Okay, great. James, you can give us a little background for who you are for the audience know more about you?
Sure. So my background is obviously gymnastics. I started when I was 7. I went to a sports acrobatics and tumbling gymnastics club. Where I live in a very small town, if you can even call it a town, probably a village. And we don't have very good gymnastics clubs in terms of their size. They're very small. So I started in a small club. And yeah, I just did it because I enjoyed it. Always did sport growing up. I did a lot of different sports, and gymnastics was one of the sports that I did. Not a lot of fear, so I was doing pretty well in the gymnastics competitions, and then one of my coaches said, I think you're talented and we should work a little bit harder. So I put some of the sports to the side and I committed to gymnastics training more. So I was doing sort of 3 times a week. Represented my county, which in England is quite a big deal. And then I was off to university, and from there I increased my training again, went to around 20 hours a week, and worked with my coach to get me up to a international level. And that's when I represented my country for tumbling. I did 4 years in the senior men's team, and yeah, I had a great time competing. I competed in quite a few internationals, traveled the world with the squad, and then from there I got into circus performing. So I was using the tumbling, the knowledge I'd learned from there, and I was accepted into Cirque du Soleil in 2016 as part of the creation of Septimo Dia, which was a show based on the music of Soda Stereo, which I believe your audience should be familiar with. So I was there for a couple of years. I was performing 8 times a week, and from there sort of moved on to another show. This was in Dubai, where I was doing a lot more things performing wise. It wasn't just tumbling. I got in as a tumbler and then developed as a performer to be a high diver and a porter and an aerialist and all sorts of different disciplines. Just kept going from there. Moved on from that show and then went into like freelancing, which in Dubai is quite a big thing, as there's lots of events in Dubai and lots of people to entertain. So I was working in Dubai as a freelance performer as an acrobatic duo. I've done all sorts, and that's sort of 10 years of performing.
You have a lot multifaceted possibilities in your profile, because I remember when you was here in Dubai, you have a lot of opportunities and networking with your experience.
Yeah, I think because I'm not young as I used to be. I'm certainly not old, but over my time I have picked up a lot of skills, and I think that's helped me survive in this world a little bit longer maybe than just a tumbler would. I sort of diversified my portfolio of performing skills, so I've got a little bit of everything. So yeah.
You remember when we saw a video of your coach, if you can mention the name of your coach and the club you trained, because it was a special situation with not a lot of equipment, but with a lot of knowledge and practice and techniques.
So my coach is Craig Lowther. He's a British coach, and we trained in a facility which it was like an industrial unit, and it didn't have that much space. So we really were maximizing the facility as much as possible. We had the tumble track very close to the wall, and the roof wasn't especially high, so we had some heaters which would hang down, and it wasn't that much different distance when you were doing your transitions. For example, you had maybe sort of 6 to 12 inches gap, and then we had a fast track which overlaps the track, and an air track which fit underneath.
Was
that
like
overlapped
highway,
the fast
one
track.
highway, other highway.
It was like Shakeside Road for
Something.
tumbling.
And
Yeah,
the
we
name
had
of
a
the club,
system.
what was the name of
It's called Wakefield Gymnastics Club.
it?
Yeah, it's in the north of England.
Good experience there and a lot of memories.
A lot of memories. We trained really hard, really very hard. I was there, it felt like home, like second home. I was there. Often I'd train up until 9 p.m. and then I'd be there at 9 a.m. the next morning, and you question why you're not just living in the gym. It would be so much easier.
What is the more beautiful experience you have like athlete in this place, or your memory with your coach? What you learn with your coach in this moment, you keep in this moment until now?
Favorite memory would be British Championships 2014. It was a big competition, not in a grand scheme of things. It wasn't international, it was a national competition, but it was a big one for me because it was the qualifiers for the World Championships. So we used that competition as a precursor to select the team that would then go to the World Championships. And I'd had a little run of injuries previously, so I missed the competitions before. I'd missed, and going into this one, it was kind of a make or break situation. So we really attacked the trainings up to this competition, and I tumbled the best I've ever tumbled in the run up to that competition. So I was going into this competition with a lot of confidence, but not a lot of competition experience running up to it. So with the pressures, with everything that was going on, what it meant, the passes that I was doing were the hardest passes I'd ever competed. It was a lot, but my memory is that I just went into a zone that was enjoyable, and I competed just like I trained. And it's something I preach to my children that I teach now, which is to train like you compete. So when you get to competition, it feels like a training. And this for me was the first competition where that actually felt how it was. So yeah, I landed all my passes. I finished second, so it was my highest finishing competition in the UK. And I also got selected for the World Championships, which was going to be my first World Championships. So it was a long plan that worked, and there was just a lot of relief up to that. And I had a lot of positive feedback, and not a lot of people had seen what I was doing behind the scenes with work. I was working so much to get myself ready for this competition, and it was such a nice positive feedback when I was able to perform in front of thousands of people and all my peers and all my coaches watching. It was a great moment, and I really felt like I had a good connection with my coach that day. He was very proud.
And what you bring until now, a value or way for training from your coach, and you're practicing now like a coach sometimes.
Well, yeah, it's when you're younger, you don't necessarily understand as much as you do when you're older. Like, life experience teaches you a lot. And it's only now I sort of reflect on what he would say and understand what he meant. Maybe at the time I didn't understand necessarily what he was meaning by what he was saying. So my goal as a coach now is to try and explain, not better, because I don't think he did a bad job of explaining it, but I just didn't understand some of the things he was saying. So I really try to understand now that if you don't know why you're doing something, you're not going to give your all. I think what I bring now is knowledge and experience. I try to bring my experiences into my coaching, and we'll give examples, when as coaches we all understand the fundamentals of why we're doing something, but the children who are, say, 8 or 9 or 10 years old don't necessarily understand this. So I like to use my experiences and give them as examples as to when something that I did as a training method worked and what I was able to gain as a result of that. And I use sort of athletes as pedestals for kids. If I know a child looks up to a specific athlete, a gymnast, a specific tumbler or a sports acro flyer, I'll make sure that I work with that child, analyzing videos with them to get involved so that they feel like we're on the same team. And then I bring it backwards from there and say, right, get them to tell me what was good about their technique. What did you see? Get them to analyze more, because gymnastics is such an analytical sport. It's a perfectionist sport, and it requires you to have an understanding of biomechanics, physics, angles of attack. It's such a technical sport that if you don't fundamentally understand why a technique is the way it is, you'll never do it yourself. So I try to not necessarily get into the nitty-gritties with the kids at the beginning, but I do get them to look at perfect technique, and then get them to tell me what was good about it. And then I will, video them. I use video quite a lot, and I, put them side by side, and then often that works really well, because they can see, oh, my angle is not as steep as this person. So, it brings it, and they work it out themselves what they're doing wrong, and that therefore means they understand what they've done wrong. And if they understand it, then they're more likely to change it.
It's very complicated to give a lot of knowledge to kids. Sometimes try to do something very specific, and one momentum, 1 second explain something is difficult. It's our art. Give this with a more friendly way, this knowledge, like a coach. The next question for you, what means for you be a coach?
Really great question that has a lot of possible answers. Yeah, it's deep. What does it mean? Well, simply it's giving knowledge to the next generation. Human beings are pretty impressive creatures that, as generation to generation, we compound our knowledge. We learn from our mistakes, and we pass that knowledge on to the next, so they don't have to make the same mistakes that we did. Therefore, they'll grow faster. So fundamentally, it's about that compounding knowledge and working with a new generation to better the sport. You can see how far the sport's come just in the last 5 to 10 years. It seems to have accelerated massively. But on like a deeper personal level, it's more about nurturing, I think. I love children, and I know that I had a very good relationship with my sports coach, my gymnastics coach, and it's a different role in someone's life. It's not you're not trying to be the father, you're not trying to be anything other than the gymnastics coach, but inevitably you spend so much time together that you get to know these children on such a deeper level that sometimes, in my case, I did see my coach more than I saw my dad due to working restrictions of him. I never said that he is my dad. He's not. He's my coach. But I had that kind of relationship with him, and it's just another person in your life who you can trust and be there and get advice from, because you're similar. The similarities between the gymnast and the coach are there because you're both at the same sport. You're both there. You both love it. So I would not necessarily talk to my parents about gymnastics in such a deep level, because I know they don't have an understanding like that. I had that output with my coach, and I would talk because we're both obsessed with it. We never got bored with it. And that's a relationship that's really nice. And I want to have that with children in the future. And if I can help raise children in a safe environment where they feel valued, then that's a gift, you know.
Yeah, as it's something I hear from a lot of coaches in UAE is I pass more time on the gym comparing my home.
Yeah, especially in the UAE.
It's like how you create this second home in the gym.
Completely agree.
Tell me more about this travel in Latin America with Cirque du Soleil. Who is working this multicultural and high performance team? What was this Séptimo Día?
Well, put simply, it was a combination of circus with music. The music in this show was from the Argentinian rock band of the 80s, Soda Stereo. And we worked with Soda for a number of months before the show got going to create a concept for the show. Because every show has a storyline. We had to work on what that was. And really, it was a celebration of their music because the lead singer, Gustavo Cerati, was, he died, unfortunately. So their story got cut short, which is very sad. And we felt like we were continuing their story. And it was quite a nice thing to do, and it felt very special to be a part of, because the culture, I'm sure I don't have to explain to many of your viewers the culture of music in South America. It's very, very strong and very, very attached. So to be able to continue that trend was lovely. And what it was, we essentially had 15 acts to 15 songs. We had 75 people during creation, which included all of the creation team, all of the acrobats, and they were all from Cirque du Soleil. And our job for 6 months was to just basically put this together. How do we piece every act together? How do we make the transition seamless? It's all logistics in the beginning. As you know, personnel, how does this person work when he needs to be getting ready for his act here? Just figuring out all the details. That was the first 6 months. And then once the show was ready, we premiered in Argentina, Buenos Aires, and we did about 3 months of shows there. And what was quite unique about this show was the number of audience members we had was so much larger than a regular Cirque show. So a normal Cirque show has roughly 1,000, maybe 1,500 people, and we had 8,000, because it was a full-on concert. We had 2,000 people stood up in what we called the campo, and then we had sort of 4,000 to 6,000 people sat down in the arena. So it created this atmosphere. And what was unique was the majority of people had never seen circus before in their lives. They were there because the music was there. So you were performing this incredible circus act in front of people who had never seen this before, who had turned up for the music, and they'd got this incredible show. So the atmosphere was electric every single night. It was phenomenal. I will never forget those moments, because every single night you went out there, the adrenaline was high, the music was loud, we were rocking, the place was rocking every single night, and you felt like a rock star. It was fantastic. It was, there aren't enough adjectives in the English language that I know of to sort of suitably describe how the feeling was. But it was a touring show. So we started in Buenos Aires, and then we moved to Cordoba in Argentina. We were there for a month. And then we went across to Peru. We were in Peru for a month, came down to Chile. We were in Santiago de Chile for a month, back up to Colombia. We were in Bogota for a month. Then we had a little show break, came back to the Central American countries. So we had Costa Rica, Panama, Guatemala. Then we had another show break, and then we came back to the United States. We did Miami, Florida. Then it was back down we did Mexico for 3 months. Then we came back to Argentina. It was amazing because for work, and I was part of this incredible show. It was a dream come true. It was like the perfect tour. I've always been interested in South America. I've always been interested in learning Spanish. You know, I do a lot of salsa dancing, which is all Latin music, and now I actually understand what the words are. Sometimes in reggaeton, you kind of don't want to know what they're talking about, but no, it's fantastic.
What point you learn Spanish in the way when you travel?
Yeah, I was with my wife, and both of us, we wanted to get the best out of the experience, and she took some classes, and I learned from a guy off YouTube, and I was practicing. Obviously, there were South American people in the show, so a lot of Argentinians. So I would practice with them, and my physio was Mexican, so he would always speak to me in Spanish and correct me. And I tried to take classes when I could, but it wasn't very often. I think I had 2 weeks in Peru where I took a week of classes, and yeah, it slowly developed over time. You know what it's like. It helps when you're in the country, everyone speaks the language, everyone's very accepting, which is really nice. You know, if you don't say a word quite correctly, they will help you, and they don't
You feel you don't speak very well, but you speak very well, and you bring on a second soul, because when you speak in Spanish, you are different, completely different when you speak English.
Yeah, a much different person, because my vocabulary is much smaller. I have to be much more direct.
Yeah. How many people work in the Cirque du Soleil in this big performance with Séptimo Día?
We had 37 artists. That was it. In terms of size, it's about half the cast size of a normal show. So a normal show has around about 60 to 65 people. We had 37. So it was mainly solo artists. That's the way we got around that. The house troupe was used in the main act, the finale act. And up until that point, it was essentially lots of solo artists performing to a Soda Stereo song. And that's how we managed to keep our numbers down. We had a crew, which I would be guessing how many it was. I do not know the number. It would probably be 50 people, I would say. So yeah, we were constantly around about 90 to 100 people. We would hire people locally as well. So we had local providers of staff, which would come and help the show, because we performed in the audience. So in the campo, which was obviously where everyone was stood up, we brought acts into the campo. So we had lots of people there to move the audience, to make space for the acts. So that was another unique part of the show. We were one of the first shows in the world to bring the acts into the audience rather than just having traditional stage audience. So it would bring a unique perspective to our show.
Great. And how was the experience for work in Dubai with the same business?
It was different. A lot of differences between the two shows. One was a resident show, one was a touring show. So touring, your life is constantly on the road. You constantly live in hotels. You never have any roots. It's constant change, with a much greater emphasis on your family, because they, your circus family, because they're the only constant in those few years. Whereas when you work at a resident show, you have the opportunity to put your roots down a bit more, to find people outside of work, find common grounds, different sports. It is different. I liked both experiences, but La Perle was a much bigger show. We were in an aqua theatre. The size of the theatre was really hard to describe. It was absolutely massive. If you haven't been, the ceilings are about 40 meters tall, the ceilings. We've got a giant stage that comes out, and it's probably 25 meters. It's huge. And then you can flood the whole stage with water. You can make it rain. It's got waterfalls. We've got all sorts of apparatus that comes down from the ceiling, which we can do. And we make use of the the space, the height is magnificent. So yeah, it's a beautiful theatre.
And how was your experience in work in a place when you can share in the city? Because I think you discovered Dubai, you work in La Perle, and how was this life like a performance and enjoy Dubai?
It was a nice change up, to be honest. It was good to discover a new place and not be there for just a month. Because every time you traveled, you would have to start from zero. You know, you'd have to find the good restaurants, you'd have to find out if there's a cinema, just the simple things that keep you going as a person. You have to try, you know, that was how we got through traveling, which was, I like to go see films, so try and find a cinema in every place, and food wise, which food you like. So living in Dubai for as long as we did, we were able to live. You know, we had our favorite restaurants. I was able to play golf, which I really like.
Cricket.
We went, yeah.
You teach me cricket.
I did. I played cricket. I watched England play cricket. Yeah, great timing. So I got a cat. That was great. Still is. So she's back home now with us. We brought her back with us. So yeah, it was nice to have some roots for a while.
And what year you meet Dubai? When you entered in this place?
Oh, it was 2019 that we arrived, February 2019.
Pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID. It was a very different time, as everyone can imagine. Yeah, we were working at full capacity every night, 10 shows a week, bashing out shows. It was real work. We did a lot of shows.
Difficult skills you develop in La Perla?
Ooh, I learned to do aerial and high diving, which are two skills I've never done before. And prior to Dubai, I was scared of heights. So naturally, I became a high diver. Started out as a thing to get over my fear, just to expose me to heights, because I knew I was going to have to do height work. So I just used the diving as an opportunity to just put myself at height 5 or 6, 7 times a day. And then it ended up that with my tumbling skills, I was able to do it quite well. And then they were like, you should probably do this in the show. And suddenly I was a high diver in the show. So that was quite a nice journey, and I was quite proud of what I was able to do. In the end, I was at 18 meters, which is much higher than I should be. much more height than I'm used to tumbling. But it was great. I enjoyed it. And then same for aerial acropole. We were up at probably 22 meters at some points, sort of holding onto a pole between your legs, which was as hard as it sounds.
Yeah, I saw you make some advertise with a suit, and you
Yeah.
jumped into a platform inside the water, and was very crazy view, very elegant, gorgeous on the water.
Yeah, that was for a commercial. They were looking for a high diver who would jump off a diving board in a suit for the commercial. So naturally, I was like, "Hi, yes, I'll do that."
From British guys, 007. It's like a mission.
Yeah, exactly. They wanted a bald 007, so it was perfect for the job.
Senor James, what is your present and your future? Because I think you have some projects from Sheffield, and you work now in high performance like a coach. Tell me more about it.
Yeah, so my long-term goal is to remain in coaching. I want to have my own gym. I've worked a long time to build a business plan, and yeah, we're currently at the stage where we're asking for funding to start it. I want to have a sports acrobatic and tumbling gymnastics club that caters from 6 months all the way through to elite level and adults. And yeah, it's been a huge project that I've worked on for a long time, and finally it's starting to take feet. And yeah, I'm currently doing the coaching courses that I require to do this. In the UK, you need to be of a certain level before you can open British Gymnastics, that's right. So you need to have a level 2 qualification, which is a club coach. So yeah, I started that course a couple of weeks ago. So I'm currently at a different club working on my coaching qualifications. So I've got an elite group of sports acro gymnasts, which I'm working with to sort of better their progress. And also they're helping me by doing a coaching course. And then fingers crossed, if everything goes well, I will be opening a club next year. So
I will
yeah.
visit, yeah, I will visit your club.
Yeah, providing we get funding, you can come, definitely.
Now we make the advertise for your club. Don't worry. We will hear this
Yeah,
podcast in your club in the future.
fantastic. Yeah, no, I'll definitely keep it. It's one of those things we're trying to obviously do gymnastics, that's a given, but we want to use our experience that we've gained from performing and the contacts that we've gained along the way to help children that want to also get into performing arts, provide them with a pathway to get in. Because I know when I was looking to get into this world, I just had no idea how to. There was no person I could ask. There was no book on it. It was not on the internet. No one had blogged it. It was an unknown entity, and it was just be as good as I can be and hope that someone spots me. That was basically how I was doing it. And then once I got in, I realized, there are things that they look for. There are ways to make a show reel that you get more noticed. What do the successful artists have in their caliber? So you meet lots of incredibly talented people, and you quickly learn what attributes you need to be a successful performer. So with that, I now want to create a pathway within the gymnastics club for those that want to get into the performing arts. Provide a pathway for that. So whether it works or not, I don't know. I don't know of another club that sort of has this. People like me that want to get into performing arts, because I actually wanted to get into performing arts sort of more than I wanted to compete for my country. I've always had a passion for performing and giving energy to people. I strongly believe in art, the arts world and what it offers. So yeah, if I can get more people into there and inspire the next generation, then that's what I want to do.
Great. James, what will be the name of your club?
Simply Sheffield Gymnastics Club.
What I want to see where is the potential of these clubs in the few years.
Yeah, me too. I'm really excited. And
born in one idea.
Yeah, this journey started about 5 years ago. We started brainstorming ideas as to how it all goes, and there's a lot of work that goes into starting a club. So it's been a long journey, and we're getting closer, which is great.
Great. And about the club now, you're training and you design all the program or the training program.
Yeah. So as part of my work there, I'm currentently redesigning the programs that the kids are working on, to give them hopefully a better pathway. I've created a 6-week program for all of the children to follow, which is going to be it's everything from warm up to stretches to the performance pathway, conditioning, and then progress reports, how they structure the sessions, the timings of the sessions. It's a full-on review of how it's being dealt with, how it's done previously, and how we can improve the coaching going forwards.
Great. And you define some important words if you want to run your club, because everything about capacity, the program, the schedules, the space, the warm-up, the strength condition, all the things what you say, you start to learn from a lot different environments or gymnastic culture. And later you bring all these ideas in your place.
That's the beauty of having this traveled experience, is that I've coached now in multiple countries, in multiple gyms, and I've been in many successful gyms of different styles of gymnastics. And you're basically picking the best parts or what worked really well from each gym, and then putting it together and being like, right, this is the winning formula. And what I'm trying to do now at the gym club I'm coaching at now is essentially just try all this out. Like, does this work? So I'll have some real life feedback whether my ideas and my plans and my programs are going to work in the future at Sheffield. So it's great. It's like a dummy practice for me. So that's what I'm treating it as, and putting a lot of energy into seeing if it works.
Great. What advice for the new generation of coaches?
I think that question has sort of two ways of responding. I can respond directly to the gymnast that was myself 20 years ago. So I would have been 10.
Please go.
As a coach,
you have
what would
freedom.
I say to my 10-year-old self? Well, it's quite specific. You know, I'd advise me to put more focus on training in gymnastics, because at that time I was training like 5 different sports at the time, and I wasn't necessarily giving gymnastics my full attention because I didn't know that that was going to be the path I was going to take. So with hindsight, I would say to myself, like, this is going to be your life, your income, your passion. Stop doing table tennis and golf and all of the other sports you're taking part in, and take your gymnastics a bit more seriously. Because not that I don't feel like I peaked even as a performer or as a tumbler for my country. I was still improving. I just sort of ran out of time. I got to a stage where I was 24 and I was still learning, and life meant that I had to stop. I had to get a job because my uni degree had finished. So I didn't choose to finish my tumbling career. It just ended because I had to move on, and I was still learning. And, you know, I'm very proud of what I've done, but there is a little part of me that still is like, wonder what you would have done if you'd have kept going. So yeah, personally, I would have said to myself, commit to the gym more. But to other people, it's a much broader question. It's a great question. I think find your passion. Find parts, whatever it is within the sport that really gets you. And then when you find that, just go full on 100% into that direction. Don't question it, and just give it your all, because you never know where it might take you.
We find this word a lot of times in our conversation about passion. That maybe in the coaches, one of the more important advice is about find your passion, because when you find this energy, this deep gas, it never end. Yes, is you enjoy, you have enthusiasm, and you go to your job happy because you really enjoy what do you do.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's an endless supply of energy when you find your passion, and that can be an incredible thing that not a lot of people have. So if you find that early on, you'll have a big advantage.
James, I think it's done, and thank you so much. Muchas gracias. I'm so happy for have this friendly interview, because end of the record, like a friend, this experience with meet you here in Dubai was amazing. I learned a lot from you, and we promise the audience in Latin America we will do the interview in Spanish too. This is next, yeah.
It's going to be much quicker.
It will be challenging, I know, but it's something I really know a lot of people in Latin America want to know about your story, about your background, because you can inspire, you can give some advices for, or make a lot of impact for, like Emilio, 4 years ago, didn't speak English. And now I meet you and I learn a lot about gymnastics.
Un placer, amigo.
Un placer. Thank you so much, James, and we will see you soon. And thank you so much for to all the audience was in this moment and listen all this podcast. Remember, you can find this audio and the video on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. And we will continue with this content for all the coaches around the world with more interviews with incredible people we meet here in Dubai. Okay. Thank you so much, James.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Bye bye.